second time this week I'm in the theater. Today it's in Den Bosch because we have the yearly event of the VNSG, the Dutch user group, connecting the dots. And that's what Penninkhof and I are going to do. We're also going to host a session on SAP BTP, of course. And we will make a storyline on making a play with actors and director and so on and so on. So it will be great. Let's go inside. Where is die hoor? Where is die? And we brought our
ice cream truck
and podcast. Hello. And the podcast will be available somewhere of course in Haarlem Café, the Netherlands. But the recap video we will also show you what we have presented today at this event, covering build code, build process automation, of course, in the live demo. And maybe without further ado, let's jump into those demos. Yeah?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
So in the theme of our plays and the theater, building an application and running your business is basically the same as a theater show, right? In a theater show, you will have the actors. The actors are the systems, the key players that execute business processes. And on top of the actors, obviously, you have the audience. The audience are your users, and those users need to be satisfied with great products. Then we have the script. And the script can be represented by programs, by applications, by that you possibly built with SAP build code. This is where your applications come to life and interact with your users. Of course, we have the director. The director is SAP build process automation, that is making sure that processes are executed in the way they are supposed to, using workflows, etc. We have the effects and the lights. You could see them as the AI and extensions. They enhance the performance with predictive insights and seamless integrations. And obviously, eventually, you'd like to have continuous improvement. And this is the encore of the theater show. Now we have a love story for you. A love story between two people, or a love story between two systems. We are talking about a love story between S/4HANA and our Business Technology Platform. Sometimes we call it a symbiosis, and sometimes we call it a love story. And how these two systems work together to make sure that your processes are executed properly, Twan is going to show you now in a demo of SAP Build Process Automation.
In this part of this love story, I like to show you something of the love story between S/4HANA and SAP Business Technology Platform. Say you want to raise an event somewhere in your transaction, like the managed sales order transaction. I'm going to use the Extensibility Wizard to show the love between S/4HANA and BTP. So for example, if you want to raise your custom event using BTP, there is the Extensibility Wizard to guide you through this process. And it helps you to keep the core clean. You do not have to open the S/4HANA box and create your own logic. You can now use the side-by-side scenario with BTP. I'm in S/4HANA. And you will probably recognize all the tiles and so on, but let's go into the sales process. Let me create a sales order. And the Extensibility Wizard comes into the user menu. It comes available in the user menu. Over here, there is create extension. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to create an extension. It's connecting to BTP, and I can add some custom fields, I can add some custom logic, and I can add a custom process. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to create a custom process and business event. That will be the trigger. And now I immediately get the context of the transaction I'm in. I'm in a sales document item. I have also the sales document header data and item data. And I like to have an event when a sales order has been created. I choose the event. And here I can select created. VNSG demo. Review. I can review and then I can create. And now the Extensibility Wizard is going to create an event in BTP, in Build Process Automation, and there I can use the business context from S/4HANA, from the sales order, to create my own extension. Let's open the extension in SAP Build. Here we go. So you can see that the process has been created in Build Process Automation. The trigger has been created. The trigger also holds the data that comes from the business context, the sales order. So you can see sales order, sales organization, sold to party. And of course you can use this information to call an API and get additional information if you want. Let me also add a condition, because I do not want everyone to go into my specific test in this environment. Open the condition editor, so I can use some context like the customer number sold to party is equal to KQ S04, S04, apply. So if the condition is met, then I will raise a form, and this will be a pretty straightforward process. Sales order created. New sales order created, and if I want to have some information from the process context as well, so I can, for example, add the sales order to it. I need to have a recipient, which will be me, as it is my own demo system. Usually you have like organization department or something, so not a specific user, of course. But now for the demo I will just use my email address. Save. And I need to edit the form itself. Very drag and drop, very easy to create your own form. New sales order created. And let me just add some context from the process. So customer, and it will be read only because the information will come from the trigger. And I also add the sales order number in, also read only. And that's about it. To make it easy, I will save this form. And of course I need to do some mapping. So from the process context into this form, the two fields I have just created are input fields, like the customer comes from the sold to party, and then the sales order comes from this specific sales order type. Save. This is pretty straightforward. In the real world you will probably create a sales order with an automatic credit block, and then in the process you can then check whether it is still relevant, this credit block. Maybe you want to have some additional checks, maybe to an external API, and whether when it's under a specific threshold, maybe you just want to have an automatic approval or an automatic removal of this credit block. That's all what you can do in Build Process Automation. My process is done. It will be, again, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Let's just release it. And when I go do the released version, I also like to deploy it to my environment. Deploy. The trigger will be created. And when everything is fine and deployed, I can test my sales order event. So let's go back to S4HANA. Close. I'm still creating a new sales order. Let me enter my customer number over here and enter material, which will be M500, and choose one, go for one, bike, create, and just ignore the functional warnings right now because it's a demo system. And I can see there is a new sales order has been created 44442, and the event should now have been raised and sent to process automation. So let's go into the inbox, let's refresh the inbox, and here we go. In my inbox on BTP, you can now see that for customer, this one, the new sales order has been created. Again, pretty straightforward, but just to show you the love between S4HANA and Build Process Automation. Summary is that in S4HANA you have the Extensibility Wizard that connects to SAP Build Process Automation on my Business Technology Platform. The event will be sent to a topic. This topic will be handled by Event Mesh on BTP, and Event Mesh will now send the event that has been come in from S4HANA to Build Process Automation to start this process, test VNSG, as I just have created. And this is how easy it is using the Extensibility Wizard to create your own extension on S4HANA public cloud, for example. Now let's go to the next one, which is SAP Build Code with Jan Penninkhof.
In this demo, what I want to show you is to create a lineup of theater productions for theater. And what is easiest than to go by ChatGPT to ask for a use case, right? You could write a use case yourself, but we can create this use case with ChatGPT as well. So in ChatGPT, I've written down, write a use case for an app that allows me to manage the theater productions of a theater. And out comes a very nice detailed description of a theater show management application, as you can see here. The details are here, and of course I need to copy and paste it, so I need to copy it first. Okay, the next thing is that we're going to SAP Build, and in SAP Build we're in the lobby. And in the lobby we'll have to create a new application, a build application with SAP Build Code, which is a full stack application. You can give it a name, and we are going to build a Node.js application, and off you go. This is where the skeleton of the application will be built. The reason why we are building this with Build Code is because we thought it would be simple. It's AI assisted development. Just like in low code, no code, I'm probably not going to touch anything that has to do with code, except for maybe showing it. So this is also an indication on how code and no code are actually growing towards each other, where we have, well, traditionally pro-code environments that now have so many AI tools and visual tools that are getting very similar to what we have in the no-code space. And on the no-code space, we also have the possibility to sometimes implement code by calling an API and doing something with an algorithm. So that's where we have the possibility to insert code as well. So this is a way how these application programming environments are growing towards each other. Also, of course, and this is something that we call fusion development, you can mix and match application development using code and no code together. Good, so the application is there and we can actually launch it, and when we launch it we'll be going to the editor. And one thing you may notice about this editor is that once you've launched it, you will see something that is quite different from how you used to see it. Previously you saw an editor with folder structures and files, and in those files you could click on them, and then you saw the code that was in those files, etc. If you now open the editor, you will basically see a skeleton of an application, not in terms of code, but not in terms of files, but in terms of semantic differences, like external resources, the data models, the services, and the UI applications. Now the interesting part, of course, is where we are going to generate an application. And this generation of an application, I'm going to do the lazy style. I'm going to build an entire application, including Fiori, using Fiori elements. So that's the code here. Fiori gen spec app generate an SAP Fiori elements application. If I click on it, I can describe what I want to do in the left bottom. And this is where I paste my use case. So paste. This is where the use case goes in, and if I then click on send, it will be thinking and letting me know that in this case I should be launching the SAP Fiori Tools Project Accelerator. So yeah, fine, I'm going to do that. Click on the button, and then it comes up with the Project Accelerator. That's awesome, and it has the requirements that I previously pasted already in its entry box. So I can just go to generate to generate an application. Now the fun thing is that what is happening here is multiple steps. It's taking my use case and it's trying to find out how data should be structured in this use case. So that's where it basically starts off with. You can see on the screen now that it's generating a CAP model using LLM. So LLM is basically the ChatGPT or whatever service it uses to generate code, and it's generating a CAP model, basically the data model that's the foundation of the application. So you can imagine that it needs to store theaters, it needs to store theater productions, it needs to store all that kind of things. So the data model needs to be there as well. And based on the description that's found in the use case, it's trying to deduct what types of data store is necessary for it. And gradually you will see it progress into different stages. You will see it eventually turning into a stage where the services are being created. So these are the OData services that you need in order to pull data from those data stores and get it into a UI application. There's mock-up data involved, like it's being generated at the moment. There's mock data involved, so that if you open up the application, that it doesn't show an empty application, but it shows some data in there already. And eventually, that's the stage that it's in now, it generates an application. So it basically generates a Fiori application that is necessary to have the UI on top of the data that is going to be entered, or data that's mocked up in the application already. So it's going to be an application that is taking things from front to the end, data model, services, Fiori applications, all in there. Now what you see in the screen now is basically what has been generated in terms of files. And this is one thing that you need to know about how SAP works with AI. We have this responsibility in place, so that means that there's always a human in the loop. So in this case, the human is in the loop to basically accept the changes and to put it into your editor, from the staging environment into your editor. So everything is ready in the staging environment now, and I would like to accept this project. And once I accept this project, you will see that the staging area is basically empty now, and everything that was in the staging environment is now basically part of the visualization that you have in the screen now. So you see the data models, you see the services, and you see the UI application that has been generated. Of course, I wonder if this application actually runs. So that's my next step. And I can press the play button, and with the play button the application is supposed to start running. So it's doing something on the background to get everything ready for launch, and once it is ready, it will basically show me a developer view of how this application looks like. On the right it will show me the tables and also the services. I can click on those to see what's actually in those tables and in those services. But more interesting is the button on the left, right? The tile on the left that's basically representing the application that I just built. And if I click on it, I should have the first skeletons of what my application is supposed to look like. So click. I'll have my application, and I can see that in this application, well, it apparently listened very well. It has created the mockup data, and it's showing a couple of the theater shows that are in the mockup database at the moment. So click on, for instance, Lion King, and then I'll see the details of this Lion King show. So that's interesting. It's well done. I think it's a nice scaffold. I can work with this to create even better things. I can see here staff members. Now this is obviously a test system, so all the names are generated in this system. David Wilson is someone I don't know, so I'm going to change them. I'm not too happy with the names that have been generated there. So I can go into staff members and check the mockup data that's being generated there. So this is the data editor that allows me to generate or to have data in my database. So these are all the staff members that are in the database. But suppose I don't like the names, for instance. I can basically click on enhance and make these data even better. I would like the staff to have names of Greek gods. No, Viking gods, that would be even cooler. Gods. And submit. What it does now is basically using AI again to do things with the mockup data that I have in this database. It comes up with a proposal, the theater show management staff members.csv, and if I accept it, I should get these data, these new names, inside my mockup data. I can view them by quickly changing the views, and over here I can see the staff names already changing from David Wilson or whatsoever to now Thor and Odin and Loki and Freyja. And if I go to my application, I can see that the Lion King wasn't by Steve Wilson or whoever, but is now the staff member that's involved is now Balder which is, I think, really cool. So this is the way AI can help you to create even mock data and to make it even better. Secondary thing that you might want to wonder about is how I can basically change the behavior of the application, right? So this application, go back. Suppose I would like to, do my own demos and eventually have that as a theater show as well. But I'd like to have at least, let's say, 15 people in my show. In that case, I would like to have a business rule, right? And this business rule needs to be added as well. So I can go back to the Business Application Studio. I will close the part where I do the mock data for a while, and then in in the theater shows, I add some logic. And this logic is supposed to happen whenever a new theater show is being created. Open the code editor. When I click on the theater show's logic, I have the prompt again for Joule to do something useful with Joule in terms of code. If I now write down my business rule, if a theater show is created, it should have at least 15 seats. Send. It's going to generate the code in order for me to implement that business rule. Now over here you can see already that some code is appearing, and I can accept it, and once accepted, it's being moved into the code section of this screen. Now if I would go to my application again and try to create a new theater show, Jan and Twan show, and I'd like to try to have a seating capacity or availability of 10. Okay, you can now see that the seating availability, even though I entered 10, has been set to 15. So the logic says that if the seating availability is less than 15, the seating availability should be 15. Now if I want this to create an error message instead, I can do the same thing again, and if the seating availability entered is less than 15, show an error message. It will now create a different piece of code. In this way I can change the code in something that I find more useful. I accept this one, and if I would now go to my application and try to create a new application, the Jan and Twan show, and set the seating availability to 10 and create it, it will give me an error message and saying that the seating availability must be 15. So it doesn't only work if you try to create your new application from scratch, it also helps you in order to change your business rules and change your logic in such a way that you eventually have an application that works best for you.
Our podcast recap with Ronald, Joris, Guido, Letitia, Ronald, Willem-Jan, Ronald, Michiel, Gerben, Roel and Niels is available via your favorite podcast platform.